You're listening to The Reclaimed Life, a podcast about recognizing manipulation, reclaiming your voice, and rebuilding a life that actually feels like your own. I'm Rachel Paxton, an author, ordained chaplain, and certified mental health coach. And each week I'll explore the patterns, dynamics, and turning points that help people rediscover who they truly are. I've been thinking about peace this week. It's one of those words that almost always sounds good. We pray for peace. We look for peace. We tell people to keep the peace. It feels like something we're all supposed to want. And I do. But I've also been wondering, what if peace sometimes comes at a price? Not the kind of price anyone else sees, the quiet kind. The kind that isn't obvious until years later. I've been writing this week, and one sentence found me that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Some truths simply feel too expensive. I've turned that sentence over in my mind all week. Not because I think every truth should be spoken, because I don't. There are plenty of things that don't need to be said. But I've been wondering about the truths that quietly stay inside because saying them felt like they would cost too much. Maybe they would change the relationship. Maybe someone would get defensive. Maybe someone would be hurt. Maybe someone would have to look at something they'd spent a long time trying not to look at. It's funny, I don't think I ever consciously thought through all of that. I just didn't say certain things. I don't remember making a decision. I think it simply became familiar. You know what's interesting? Most conversations disappear almost immediately. I couldn't tell you what I talked about 3 Tuesdays ago, or last Thursday, or probably even Monday, but every now and then, there's one. You know the one. Years later, it still wanders back into your thoughts. Not often, just every once in a while. And I've been wondering why. And I don't think it's always because it was a terrible conversation. Sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes nothing dramatic happened at all. The conversation just ended. Everyone went home. Life moved on. And yet, something about it didn't. Have you ever been halfway home and suddenly realized there was something you wish you'd said? Not because you wanted to win, not because you wanted the last word, just because you realized there was something true that never quite made it into the conversation. I think that's a very different feeling. I also wonder if we give ourselves a lot of really good reasons. It's not worth bringing up. They didn't mean it that way. It'll only make things worse. It's really not that important. Sometimes those things are true. Sometimes they really aren't worth bringing up. But I wonder if now and then those reasons quietly cover something else. Not fear exactly, not even avoidance, just the sense that telling the whole truth might ask more of the conversation than anyone was ready to give. I've also been thinking about the word price. When something costs money, we usually know exactly what we paid, but emotional costs don't work like that. Sometimes we don't realize what something cost until years later. Maybe the cost wasn't the conversation itself. Maybe the cost was becoming someone who slowly stopped expecting their own perspective to take up space. That doesn't happen overnight. It's almost too gradual to notice, until one day you do. One of the things I've realized is that not every truth costs the same. Some truths are easy. I'd rather go somewhere else. I don't really like mushrooms. I thought that movie was boring. Those don't really change much. But then there are other truths, the kind that ask something of the people around us. Sometimes they ask someone to reconsider what happened. Sometimes they ask someone to take responsibility. Sometimes they ask someone to see us differently than they have before. Those truths feel heavier, not because they're less true, but because they ask more of the conversation. This week I've been writing a chapter for my new book, and I caught myself trying to explain all of this. Then I deleted half of it. I realized the chapter didn't need me to explain it. It just needed me to notice it. I'm beginning to think that's true of a lot of life. Sometimes we rush to explain things before we've really sat with them. Maybe noticing is enough for a while. I don't know what conversation came to your mind while you were listening today. Maybe none did. Or maybe one quietly showed up somewhere in the middle of this episode. The interesting thing is, those conversations don't always come back because we're trying to prove someone else was wrong. Sometimes I think they're simply asking us to notice something we hadn't noticed before. I've been sitting with one question this week, not trying to answer it, just carrying it with me. I wonder, how many quiet truths have gone unspoken? Thank you for listening to The Reclaimed Life. If something in this episode resonated with you, you're not alone. Many people are beginning to recognize unhealthy patterns in relationships, systems, and environments, and discovering that reclaiming their voice is possible. In future episodes, I'll explore topics like recognizing manipulation, understanding narcissistic dynamics, rebuilding self trust, and learning how to create a life that actually feels like your own. If you'd like to explore more of these ideas, you can visit my website at thereclaimlifepodcast.com, where I share additional writing, resources, and future episodes of the show. Until next time, take a moment to listen to your intuition, trust what you're beginning to see, and remember that reclaiming your life often begins with one honest question. This is The Reclaimed Life.